Hello, everybody. Billy from Inside Billy's Head here. I'm not going to start with my usual intro because this is a little more of a serious topic, and it's not about being comedic this time around or to make you laugh. It's to actually educate you a little bit. And I have some family and friends who've requested that I do this because they want to know what actually happened during my heart attack, what led up to it. Did I have any kind of indications that things were happening beforehand, that kind of stuff? And I did, and so I decided to go ahead and do this video. And it's a little more serious. I'm not trying to be, Debbie Downer for anybody, so please don't think that. And I'll get back to my humor skits and things that I'm doing. In fact, I have one already planned, so no worries there. But to start out with, I would have to say that it was in the summer of 2019. I was mowing the lawn and I started realizing that my chest was burning really bad, and I was having a hard time even finishing a simple small mowing job. And I thought, that's just weird. So then I went and sat down for a little bit, and about 15 minutes later got back up, went and did the lawn again, and the same thing happened. So I sat down again, and what normally I could do in one pass, not pass, but just takes me, I can do it all at one time, is what I should say. 3 or 4 times to do. I had to sit down several times because my chest was hurting so bad. But I kept thinking, man, I'm just really out of shape. I need to get back to the gym. I need to, do better for myself. That's what I thought. That was where my mind was. Let me tell you, it was a lot worse than I thought it was. When you have symptoms like that, don't ignore them. I had some bad habits, okay? And I don't put you down or look at you negatively if you have the same habits. Everybody has their vices. At that time, I admit I was a heavy drinker, and I'm not saying that did it, but I was definitely told by my cardiologist that I definitely pushed myself, I guess. I also wasn't eating very good. I was eating a lot of sodium, especially a lot of bad fatty foods, fried foods, stuff that shouldn't have been eaten. Okay, that's just something I learned. But I didn't really think much of it. And then in the fall of 2019, and stress was another thing, which is where I'm coming with this. In the fall of 2019, I had some issues at work that really kind of pushed me hard, and it ended up lasting it shouldn't have, but it ended up lasting from September of 2019, and the whole thing didn't finish until January of 2020, which we all know was the beginning of a really bad year when COVID hit. But anyway, I had a lot of stress in my life, and it wasn't just work. I had home stress, I had a lot of other things going on, and I let it get to me, and it just started kind of progressing. February of 2020, and it was February 14th, which was Valentine's Day. And that was the day, every year for the last 16 years, I've helped my roomie / best friend with delivering. She owns a flower business, and I help her deliver her flowers to the customers on that day. And when I was doing that, I went to a building, and I just barely got up the stairs of delivery, and I collapsed. And I realized I could not breathe. My chest was burning again. It felt like the worst burning sensation you've ever felt. Like any kind of indigestion you've ever had, just multiply that times 10 or 20. I mean, it was horrible. And I just sat there, and I could feel my chest kind of gurgling or bubbling feeling. And then finally, I got my breath back enough to get up, finish the delivery. And then I went and headed back downstairs and went to my car. Went and did one last delivery. Thank God it was the second to my last for the first round. And then came back to the house and then got, rested. And Amy asked me, she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I'm not." But she didn't realize, and I didn't even know how bad it was, so it's not her fault. And I went downstairs and laid on my bed for about 20 minutes and then got up, and it seemed like everything was okay for the rest of the day. So I did another round, and we finished the deliveries. And then she asked me to go to Freddy's and go pick up some stuff. So I did. And as I'm walking around Freddy's, that burning sensation started coming back. And I was very, very cranky with people. I could tell that something wasn't right mentally at all. I ended up going into the electronics department with my cart, and sure enough, I collapsed again. And um, one of the very nice employees over there walked over to me and he looked at me and said, "Are you okay, sir?" And I said, "No, this is the second time this has happened to me today." I said, "I think I'm just either really out of shape, or I might even have like a really bad chest infection, because it was around that time. I was like, it could be, I might need some antibiotics or something." That still was what was in my mind. And I said, "I just need to sit for a second," which I did, and I was able to get my breath back, and then I went home. February 18th was the day, I guess you could say, or well, 4:30 in the morning. I woke up and I'm sitting in my bed and I could not breathe. And I got up and I was shaking and I thought I was having one of the worst panic attacks of my life. I really did. Um, I went upstairs and I sat on my recliner because I'm thinking, if I just relax for a little bit, I'll be okay. And I'm like, you know what? I've made the decision. I'm going to have Amy take me to urgent care. It'll be open in an hour and a half at 6 in the morning. I'll have her take me. I'll get checked. It's time. And I'll call in, let work know that I'm not doing good, that I'm going to urgent care. No big deal. No less than 5 minutes later, I started doing this. And then I realized something's not right. And then I realized I couldn't breathe at all. And at that point, there was just no way I could even wait for that. And even waking her up, she wouldn't be able to get me to the hospital in time. And I'm thinking, it's best just to get paramedics here so they can check me out and make a good assessment of what's going on. So I called 911. And basically, I was just telling them I can't breathe and just getting out what little word I could. And they were here in about 5 minutes. And they popped in the door. There were 2 paramedics and 3 firefighters all kind of surrounding me, checking me, doing, cut my shirt off, cutting everything. They put the little tags on you, did the EKG, checked all that out to see what was going on. And I remember the paramedic that was looking at the machine looked up at the paramedic that was working on me and said, "We need to get him to the hospital now." And so they said, "Hey, can you get up and walk to our gurney that's right there?" I said, "Yeah, I can." And so they got up and held my hand and walked me over to the gurney and laid me down on it, and started wheeling me right into the back of the ambulance and put an IV in me right away. Of course, I didn't think about this, but they gave me an aspirin, which is something I didn't think about at the time. They gave me oxygen, and he kept telling me, "Breathe it in, breathe it in," and I kept saying, "I'm suffocating. I feel like I'm suffocating." He said, "I know, but you'll eventually feel better because you need this." He goes, "Your body needs this right now." And I kept trying and I started crying, saying, "Please don't let me die," because that's how I felt. I felt like I was going to die. I could not breathe. It felt like when you jump into the pool and you accidentally inhale the water into your lungs, and then you get up and you're like, and you're trying to get your breath back. Well, that's how it felt, but I couldn't get it back. It was constant. There was no getting that breath back. And it scared me so bad. And he just kept saying, "Just relax, just relax." And then I remember starting to pass out several times, and he kept hitting my leg really hard, going, "Hey, stay with me, stay with me." And I was like, and I didn't know what was going on. I was seeing different weird things. I don't remember what I saw, but it was like just crazy. And he got me to the hospital. And they got me in this little room, and within seconds I see the paramedic talking to the doctor. The doctor then comes right into my room and says, "Mr. Williams, how are you feeling? Can you breathe?" And I said, "Not very well." And he goes, "Okay, well, that's understandable because you're having a heart attack." And I went, "Excuse me?" He goes, "You're having a heart attack." And I was like, "Oh." He goes, "We're going to get you into the cath lab right away because we need to find out what's going on. We need to see what arteries are blocked and what we need to do." Cath lab is a very obviously sterile place. Everything was white. There was a big screen on the wall, a white bed they put me on, and they decided they try to numb you enough so it doesn't hurt too bad, but they put a tube up between your thigh, right in between like your thigh and your groin area, and it goes all the way up into your chest, and it actually follows like a path, and then they're taking pictures that they call angiographs, which lets them see where blockages are. And at that point I was actually able to breathe a little bit better, and he said he did something when he got up there to help me to breathe a little bit better as well. But he was pointing out to me, he says, "You see that bit looks like spider webs?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Those are all your veins and arteries." He goes, "All the little ones look good. That's how it should look." And he goes, "Now you know what Sharpie marker looks like?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "See those three that look like Sharpie markers? And especially that one that looks like a Magnum Sharpie marker, which is the biggest marker they make." He goes, "Those three are clogged." And he goes, "That one is the one that scares me right there." He goes, "I'm not gonna lie, the one that looks like a Magnum." He goes, "That means that thing is," but I was stabilized at least. And then that's when they did what they call the cabbage or the triple bypass. And you'll see, I have pictures that I'm attaching to this.
They performed a TEE or a transesophageal echocardiogram and found I had a leaky mitral valve.
Looks like this here. I'll show you at the beginning of this little graphic. You'll see that's how it's supposed to look normally, and then at the end you'll see how my heart was basically functioning. So they at that point said, "We can't do anything for you, unfortunately, because it's too far gone. So between 2 to 5 years, you're going to need a transplant." They also were still dealing with dialysis because I had kidney failure and I also had liver failure. So that was a lot of extra work to do as well. So that's why I was there for 6 weeks. So at the end of everything, they said, "We're going to send you home. You're going to be able to, just live your life normally, but between 2 to 5 years, you're going to have a transplant." But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to send you on what's called a life vest. And it's kind of an experimental thing at the time. So basically, a life vest is just a stupid, big, bulky vest. It was kind of experimental thing at the time. And basically, what it does is it has little probes on it, and if I go into a cardiac arrest, it will shock me and bring me back to life. Basically, it's try. This thing was bulky. It had this giant thing that you had to wear on your side. It was just terrible, horrible. And I worked for about a month, and I said, "No, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous." So then they gave me option 2, which was to have an ICD, or an implantable cardioverter device into my chest. And I said, "Do it. That's much easier." And that's what I have today. So here we are at 2025, 5.5 years, almost 6 years after, and I haven't had a transplant, knock on wood. They actually said that my mitral valve is functioning the way it's supposed to, which is very odd. They weren't expecting that. So they took the transplant off the table. So this is where we are today, and I'm just going to keep praying every single day that I don't need one.
One thing I've done for me personally is I quit drinking altogether. I've also started exercising, which helps your heart. And I've taken my sodium down to 1,200 milligrams a day, which I suggest you do as well.
So take care of yourself and your health, because you never know when something could happen. Alright? I love every one of you. Thank you so much for watching this today. I know it was kind of long and drawn out, but I appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe button, please, and ring that little bell icon so that you'll be told when I put up a new video each time. And please tell your friends, tell your dogs, your gerbils, I don't care, your family, to subscribe to my channel as well. I need subscribers, and that way I have more of a reason to keep doing this. So again, thank you very much. I love you all. Take care of yourself.